Good morning. My name is Edie Mickey Silvera, and I'm your worship associate this morning, and I'd like to try something. Could we stop talking and listen to Rachel's wonderful prelude? It is called, and I missed the word. There's my other picture, Rachel, playing on. Pictures. She gave me the name. Watch Your Light. Let's see if I said that right. Watchman's Song, and I'm going to let Gavin do this next time. It's by Edward Grieg. So please, let's be in meditative or musical reflection as we listen to your prelude. Thanks. Thank you all for that wonderful experiment. Again, my name is Edie Mickey Silvera. I'm your worship associate this morning. UCLB welcomes you today, Unitarian Universalist Church of Long Beach. We're an inclusive religious community rooted in love, trust, and freedom. We are bound together in a shared covenant, building a religious community guided by respect and sustained by our Unitarian Universalist principles. A special welcome to those of you who are new this morning or who are online. Thank you for joining us. We're so glad you're here. If you're interested in learning more about our community, please stop by the membership table after the service, and it's usually through those doors and near the wall and out of the sun. Every Sunday this summer, kids and youth are welcome to join religious education staff, Abi Pabon and Nika Ahmad, out by the picnic tables, which are in the playground area. It's kind of fun and playtime for all ages. Our rainbow room is also available, and that is straight across the way here for children under 5 and infants. As always, children and youth are welcome to stay in the service with our families, and there are fidget toys and crayons and papers in the back. An usher can help you. And after the service, if you are watching on Zoom, please stay for a virtual coffee hour where you can chat with others that are watching as well. And for those who are on site with us, we do have a coffee hour with coffee and ice water and some treats. I think someone made some zucchini bread because we have a lot of zucchini. So stop by our garden table, and please, you're welcome to any of the vegetables that we have. They're in abundance. So let's take a moment to greet each other warmly and respectfully. Thank you for being here. That too. Okay, team. Team UCLB. Start calling people out. Thanks. It's announcement time. Don't you want to hear all the announcements? All right, the first one is from Mike Silvera. If you think there's a significant and name it, there is one. This is my husband. Come on up.
Good morning. Hey, I'm here to talk about the Pinewood Car Race that we're putting on. We're teaching a 4-week car building class, and then starting next Sunday. And if you're not familiar with what pine wood cars are, it's made from this block of wood, and then the kids carve it out to make cars. This is a chalice car I made. This is the 100-year anniversary car I made. And this is the Standing on the Side of Love car I made. So if you don't want to make a car, you can sponsor one of these cars. And one of our elderly members, Betty Smirnoff, made a car. And this is her high heel car that she made. So don't give up. You can still make a car. We'll have all the tools and all the supplies to make the car. It's like from 11 to 2 for the next 4 weekends. Let's see. Race Day, we're bringing in the community. Our city council person will be here to do opening ceremonies, and we'll have other businesses here on Race Day. Come by the table and you can see all the cars that are available for you to sponsor if you want to not make a car and still be a part of the race. All right, thank you so much for your time.
I was also informed that Jen Goodwin will be out by the Memorial Wall area, so if you want to take a more look up there and see the pictures too. And there's Jen. Thank you. Thank you. I think that's it this morning. Our guest minister today is someone who's graced our pulpit before, Reverend Rayna Hamre. She serves as the affiliated community minister at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Anaheim. A native of Southern California and a longtime UU, she holds a Master's of Divinity, a degree from Meadville Lombard Theological School, and an MA in History. As an avid reader, since the age of 5, she has been a lifelong student of history, world religions, the divine feminine, and good stories. Prior to her ordination as a UU minister, she worked in the school and academic libraries, including the UC Irvine Science Library. She and her husband, Stephen, support social justice activities in Orange County. And now, let's take a moment. Let's take a deep breath together. If you would take a moment to silence your cell phones, please. And let's bring our attention and focus and commitment to the call to worship. And just one final comment. This church stands for peace, and violence does not. It's not something we support ever. So from the last 24 hours, we are a peaceful community. Thank you, Reverend Rayna.
It's always such a joy to be here, and if you're new to the community, I look forward to meeting you after the service. I always like to thank everyone, so thanks to Edie, the worship, the music, the technology team. I got to meet Gavin today and our lovely accompanist. Thank you, and I would really like to thank all of you, because after I heard about the Rainbow Room, it was really hard for me to stay here. So thank you for staying in the service and not running over to the Rainbow Room. I mean, I'm all over it. I used to be a director of religious ed, so. Our call to worship is by Reverend Dr. John M. Higgins, and after a very successful academic career, Reverend Higgins attended Meadville Lombard Theological School, my alma mater, and became a UU minister later in life. I like that story, it kind of matches mine. Welcome to this place. This is a home where no revealed truths are promoted and no scripture or human being accepted as infallible. This is a place for searching for truth. But we are believers. We believe in intellectual freedom. We believe in justice. We believe in compassion and concern for each other and the whole world. We believe in commitment to those ideals which make us caring and active in the struggles for human dignity. We are Unitarian Universalists. Now, if you would stand as you are able, comfortable, willing, To our introductory hymn, we'll sing "We Would Be One."
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for the meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free.
Thank you for your flexibility this morning. Now, we will light our chalice. We light this chalice remembering the freedoms long established in our nation: freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom from the establishment of religion. We light this chalice honoring those who exemplify protecting those freedoms: librarians, booksellers, teachers, authors, journalists. We light this chalice so that by its light we may read all the books. Books with archaic language, books with offensive material, books which affirm the diversity of the human race, books which normalize our various sexualities, books which share multidimensional perspectives of history. May we bask in the glow of its light this morning as we illuminate, brighten, and radiate because of the books we have read and the books we have yet to read. Please join me in the spirit of prayer or meditation. We hold the joys and sorrows of all today. We remember the role that books have played in informing us, helping us to heal from the challenges of life. Writer James Baldwin reminds us with these words: "You think your pain and your heartbreak are unprecedented in the history of the world, but then you read. It was books that taught me that the things that tormented me most were the very things that connected me with all the people who were alive and who have ever been alive. May we all find peace and happiness, sometimes while we wait yet for the unknown gifts of our sorrows." And it has been a very tough and worrisome 24 hours. I welcome anyone here who is new. If you find yourself or anyone in the congregation, please reach out after the service at coffee hour. We're a caring congregation. I would say we because I used to be the assistant minister here. But reach out, and we're here as a community to help each other. Blessed be.
In this congregation, we witness one another's lives. in our times of celebration as well as suffering. We lift up these joys of our lives, small and large, and we mourn the grief, loss, and hardship within our families, our own UCLB community, the greater Long Beach community, and our larger world. We pause to widen our circle of concern in our worship service and hold one another in compassion and love. Our mic and online chat will be open to share the joys and sorrows we wish to hold in our caring embrace. Thanks. And I can bring it to you if you want to. Sure. Get my steps in.
Okay, thank you, Edie. My name is Akemi Knight, and I have two really big joys. 4 days ago, I got a cortisone shot, which hopefully will take care of my bad back. And earlier this morning, we were able to donate our latest batch of earthworms to the bins out there. Yay!
Anyone else? Nope. You? Sure. And if you want to be seen online.
Oh, okay. My name is Frederick Rose. This is my 145th day of sobriety. Thank you. Things get better and better and better with each passing day. That's all.
Hi. Yesterday, I got to acquaint myself with my little brother, who's 9, actually 10, and there's been a lapse of time, but my stepmom thought it was important for us to connect, and my kids are 12 and 14, so they're excited, and my little brother is very kind, and that means a lot to me, so.
Okay, let me check the online chat. Hold on a second. I don't see anything on the chat at this point, so thank you. We lift up these joys in our lives, small and large, and we mourn the grief, loss, and hardship within our own UCLB community, the greater Long Beach community, and the larger world, even those that are unspoken that we hold in our hearts. We send comfort and joy tenderly to all. Let us widen our circle of concern and hold one another in compassion and love. And with these words and the silent prayers and meditations of our hearts, we say amen and blessed be. Our Sunday offering helps us to sustain our congregation alongside the generous pledges and contributions of our members and friends. As the plates go by today, take a moment to offer gratitude for all the amazing work of justice and care happening here, the connections that we are made and the lives that we help change among ourselves and elsewhere. Thank you for your generous offerings, and the collection will now be taken. Thanks. And received.
Our reading this morning is from the author, Ray Bradbury. It's called Investing Dimes. I didn't know it, but I was literally writing a dime novel. In the spring of 1950, it cost me $9.80 to write and finish the first draft of The Fireman, which later became Fahrenheit 451. In all the years from 1941 to that time, I had done most of my typing in the family garages, either in Venice, California, where we lived, because we were poor, not because it was the in place to be, or behind the tract house where my wife, Marguerite, and I raised our family. I was driven out of my garage by my loving children, who insisted on coming around to the rear window and singing and tapping on the panes. Father had to choose between finishing a story or playing with the girls. I chose to play, of course, which endangered the family income. An office had to be found. We couldn't afford one. Finally, I located just the place, the typing room in the basement of the library at the University of California, Los Angeles. There in neat rows were a score or more of old Remington or Underwood typewriters, which rented out at a dime a half hour. You thrust your dime in, the clock ticked madly, and you type wildly to finish before the half hour was out. Thus I was driven by children to leave home and by a typewriter timing device to be a maniac at the keys. Time was indeed money. I finished the first draft in roughly 9 days. At 25,000 words, it was half the novel it eventually would become. Between investing dimes and going insane when the typewriter jammed, for your precious time was gone, and whipping pages in and out of the device, I wandered upstairs. There I strolled, lost in love, down the corridors, through the stacks, touching books, pulling volumes out, turning pages, thrusting the volumes back, drowning in all the good stuffs that are the essence of libraries. What a place, don't you agree, to write a novel about burning books in the future. I grew up in a house full of books. My parents went to college after they were discharged from the Army in the 1940s. My brothers and sister were older, headed for college, so books and magazines were all over the house. We had everything from Unitarian Louisa May Alcott's Little Women to the edgy magazine Avant-Garde. I bought Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451 and Martian Chronicles in high school, along with the works of writers Asimov, Heinlein, H.P. Lovecraft, and fantasy works like Lord of the Rings. While my trigonometry grades weren't that great, I was reading constantly, sharing books and ideas with friends. Unknown to me, there was a cute guy in Minnesota reading the very same books. I would meet him a few years later and we would marry, but we met while I was working at the local community college library. In my world, real men read books. From reading, I learned about relationships, far-off places, ancient cultures, and yes, in some books, about sex. While other parents might have believed the road to juvenile delinquency began by reading Mad Magazine, my parents were fairly open about letting us read whatever fell our way. In Orange County, I found my library vocation at the age of 19. I kicked around at part-time jobs as a high school student. I didn't have the talents of a food server, and I admire those who can keep up the pace in a fast restaurant, busy restaurant. My longer stint as a student selling hippie posters at the swap meet was more successful. But when I started working as a college student at the Anaheim Public Library, I knew I was home. Nearly all of my jobs since that time have been in libraries. And for 2 summers, I worked at a bookstore part-time. Books and libraries are built into my own and my extended family's DNA. My family has enjoyed the Huntington Beach libraries for over 40 years. There is so much happening around our libraries right now, and there is a great deal of information to help give us perspective. To save time today, I brought a shorter bibliography to hand out. So those are on each side as you leave, you know, once a librarian, always a librarian kind of teacher. This service, Burning Bright, is named for the third and final chapter of Ray Bradbury's iconic book, Fahrenheit 451. The 60th anniversary edition includes resources and reviews dating from its publication in 1953 to more current essays. The 1966 movie, directed by Francois Truffaut, is also mesmerizing. It's set in the future. The firemen in this story don't put out fires. They search out and ignite hidden books. Books are the enemy, placing unhappy ideas into people's minds. The government has found that it is better to have its citizens' house walls covered with video screens, earbuds inserted in ears to help crowd out unpleasant thoughts. In the story, the fireman Montag begins to read the books he's supposed to learn. Oh, you're supposed to burn, not learn. There's a constant undercurrent of unease in this future world. Montag's wife exhibits severe depression under the forced cheerfulness she and her friends present each other. Personal sadness and grief and ongoing wars are never acknowledged or spoken about. Books are outlawed, banned, and burned. Simple answer to the complexities of life. Personal sadness and grief and ongoing wars are never acknowledged. There are contemporary criticisms of Fahrenheit 451. After rereading it, I still appreciate its powerful message. It offers a prescient view of 2024 and developing attitudes toward reading and disturbing changes creeping into our society. Public and school libraries create the perfect catalyst for today's culture clash. Huntington Beach continues to be in the news. I feel like this is deja vu from last summer when I was here talking about Huntington Beach in the news. The city council majority continues to not be visibly aligned with progressive values. The city's LGBTQI+ flag did not fly in June. On the upside, a new group, Pride at the Pier, was included in the city parade and carried a giant pride flag. There are other serious city issues stewing, but today we're focusing on libraries. There has been a growing national trend after George Floyd's death in 2020, with some parents and community members challenging libraries and insisting on the removal of books that they deem inappropriate, mostly for children. We all know that most children either have phones, a friend, or an older sibling, and they can access any type of information they want. I have tried to better understand the mindset of folks who spend a great deal of time, energy, and freaking huge amounts of money to restrict information. I want to look into the mind of the firemen in the story of Fahrenheit 451. In her book, Book Banning in the 21st Century America, the amazing Emily J.K. Knox, I'm a fangirl, tells us that book banning is a highly symbolic action, insisted on by citizens who find progressive ideas alien. They intend to publicly bring their community into alignment with their perceived correct values for the higher public good. I don't want to oversimplify Knox, so please read her book yourself if you have the time and are willing. As I move about my daily life in Huntington Beach, I find myself running into these good citizens regularly. The city council in Huntington Beach has voted to have any book deemed inappropriate or pornographic in the children's section moved to an upstairs adult area. Currently, trained librarians select books using the American Library Association, or ALA, guidelines. Chillingly, an appointed citizens committee with no formal training could have the final say on which children's books are considered inappropriate, then removed, moved to the adult section, or simply not purchased for the Huntington Beach libraries. Any library I've worked in, whether elementary, high school, academic, or public, has abided by the ALA, again, American Library Association Code of Ethics, for freedom of information. Recently in Louisiana, House Bill 777 was proposed. This wording that I'm going to read is directly from the proposed bill, which prohibits the use of public funds for transactions involving the American Library Association, prohibits a public official or employee from expending public funds to or with the American Library Association, prohibits a public employee from requesting or receiving reimbursement or remuneration in any form for continuing education or for attending a conference, if sponsored or conducted in whole or in part by the American Library Association. Proposed law provides that a person who violates proposed law shall be fined not more than $1,000 or be imprisoned with or without hard labor for not more than 2 years or both. Hard labor for ALA participation. When I checked on the status of this bill this week for this service, it had been involuntarily deferred in committee. Somebody's kicking up a ruckus. In Florida, a new law does not allow parents to challenge a decision to remove a book. Thousands of books have been removed from school libraries with no recourse. Appallingly, right now, there are people who do believe these are the right actions to take, and they wield real power. Many believe they are making an important moral stand when they remove books by Judy Blume, Percy Jackson books, and Not All Boys Are Blue from library shelves. Most progressives don't think the moral universe will collapse if a kid reads Everyone Poops. In his book, The Righteous Mind, Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion, Jonathan Haidt talks about the moral divide that separates progressives and conservatives. Progressives usually put a much higher value on caring, compassion, fairness, and liberty. Those who are more conservative favor loyalty, authority, and sanctity. It's no coincidence that many of the books being banned are written by LGBTQIA+ and Black, Indigenous, and people of color or BIPOC folks. Those who favor restricting book access are likely to be people who want to return to an America that never was, with loyalty and respect for authority, and don't see a need for diverse voices. Some authors are doubling down and writing and publishing more books, even if they might not be purchased by publicly funded libraries right now. Recent and heartening news tells us that new independent bookstores are popping up and carrying these books. So there is a rich diversity out there. We can also look at history to help understand motivation for bans and burns. Dirk Roman's Christianity, Book Burning and Censorship in Late Antiquity is a helpful guide for understanding religion-based opposition to certain books. Roman sorts out the myth from fiction about book burning during the early Western Christian period. One surprise for me was Roman's conclusion that many ancient Greek, Latin, and Egyptian texts that were pre-Christian were not destroyed intentionally or semi-intentionally. They were simply overlooked, not copied during the major transition from papyrus scrolls to the new codices that had turning pages, usually made from animal skins. Rolling out a text on a scroll is a lot of work, especially going back and forth. And it's hard to jump around in a text. In today's world, I find it difficult to use nonfiction electronic books. I love reading fiction on my book reader stories. There's more light available, and I don't have to worry about storage on my very crowded shelves. Technology changes, and we can wonder if print books will be available in 50 years or cast aside like VHS and 8-track tapes, for those of us that remember those. Where will they go? Will digital materials survive on our clouds of information storage? These questions are being asked as digital materials simply disappear due to licensing agreements that most of us never see or hear about. On the website Library Futures, we find out that public libraries are spending upwards of 3 times consumer pricing for content from the big publishing companies. Libraries must continually rebuy their collections over and over or risk having their titles disappear after the licenses expire. And I want to thank Edie for having me expand that a bit. There's some good podcasts and information, and they led me to that website. I'm like, wow, that is kind of scary. Between the years 300 to 500, historian Roman also tells us that philosophical and historical ideas that were useful were adapted or quoted by the early Christian writers. They saw no need to keep originals. Now, he does concur that most pre-Western Christian texts were devalued, discarded, and intentionally or accidentally destroyed. One exciting piece of artificial intelligence news is the ability of scientists to reconstruct burnt and charred scrolls. I read that and I was like, oh, yay. A part of one severely burnt scroll from the ancient city of Herculaneum that was damaged along with Pompeii in the year 79 was recently reconstructed and published. Just a little bit of it. An entire ancient library hopefully awaits us. Roman carefully sifts through the evidence and histories about the major book burnings in late antiquity and highlights the purification aspect of book burning. Many of the early Christians were worried that written incantations and magic could be activated simply by reading the words. If these incantations could activate in the physical world, then it was necessary to purge that power held within the book by burning it. Unfortunately, that belief in the purification and elimination of evil and Satan by fire extended to people during the Middle Ages, during early modern time periods too. So, a lot of people got burnt at the stake. Luckily for us, someone was paying attention during the destruction of ancient texts. A few things were hidden for us to find, like the Nag Hammadi library, with books that date from the 3rd and 4th centuries. A mix of early Christian, Gnostic, and other religious texts. This library has changed our views of early Christianity. It opens up a view into a diverse and rich spiritual world prior to the religious uniformity imposed in later centuries. This rigid belief system caused the eradication of not only diverse European voices, but of indigenous peoples around the globe, as Europe sailed the world during the Age of Exploration, beginning in the 1400s. As we sadly know, today we are still dealing with that legacy, a combination of military and religious zealotry. I can continue on with information and examples of suppression happening today, but we simply don't have time. I ask you to remember right now what books and libraries have meant to you. So let's just take just a few seconds to shout out, everybody just shout out the name of a book that maybe had a big influence on you or you just really love or you're reading right now. Wellness. All right.
Our bodies are cells.
Yeah. All right. We could go on for hours, right? And if we started to talk amongst ourselves about those books, it's like, wow, 3 days, easy, right there. But again, so maybe on the coffee break. I do ask you to hang on to that memory. And I'm going to also ask you if the U.S. public library system is worth saving. If your answer is yes, then please look for ways to get involved to support books, diverse writers, and our libraries. And I'm sure most of you or many of you are doing that already. I see this support as part of our Unitarian Universalist living tradition. If your answer is yes to libraries, there are many next steps with different levels of time commitment. One advocate says to simply be informed and vote. Vote in mid-year elections where stealth bills are passed. Vote for the Board of Education in your county and your local districts. As busy you use, I suggest we weave this awareness and action into our current social justice work. There usually are intersections. As a director of religious education, I spent 3 days on the street with UU youth in the Faithful Fools program in San Francisco. On the street, we acted as people with no resources. The first day, I had to cheat and buy beverages to use a restroom. The second day, I figured out that most folks experiencing houselessness went to the large public library to use the restroom and wash in the sink. How many youth use the public library as a safe place to study? While these are not good long-term solutions to underlying social problems, the libraries provide right now not only information but sanctuary to all types of people and people of all ages. During my brief time as an elementary school librarian, or library worker, for those who are with MLSs, I had several kids who were sheltering from scary situations out on the playground. They were rightfully scared. It was a really rough neighborhood. We huddled together during the practice lockdowns in case of active shooters on campus. I interacted with each of the 1,000 kids registered at the school each week during classroom library time. We can all stay up to date on what's happening in libraries. The director of the ALA's Office for Intellectual Freedom tells us this is a dangerous time for readers and public servants who provide access to reading materials. Readers, students are losing access to critical information, and librarians and teachers are under attack for doing their jobs. My husband and I participate in Pride at the Pier, HB Band Book Story Time, and Library Facebook group. There's all kinds of ways to get in the network of people who care about books. There's been marches to the pier. There have been silent read-ins, which are real fun. I'm kind of too talkative for the silent read-in. Everybody's like, shh. I belong to a network of library lovers who care, and I recently attended a Zoom workshop on the intersection of elementary school book restriction and the LGBTQIA+ community. As a result of my emails to the City Council, I've been invited to talk to one council member, which I still need to act on. With any social justice action, there's always more than one person can do. For me, the option to do nothing in my community about this is not an option. The silver lining is meeting all these amazing people, really neat people. Holding our officials accountable is going to take effort. My ask today is to please put this issue on the radar as much as you can. Organizer Kathy Ryder sent these words to me to share today. She creates petitions in Huntington Beach demanding transparency around our city libraries. She says, an untrained review committee could take away the access to required academic reading for middle and high school students. The criteria to purchase books and materials would be based on undefined and unclear community standards. Committee members are not required to have any training or expertise in reviewing books. And she closes with, parents should decide what their own children should read, not what other children should read. Myself, Reverend Lee Marie Sanchez, Reverend Judy Tomlinson, and our current UU ministry candidate all live in Huntington Beach, and we are part of this effort, along with many other people. If we get too discouraged in this struggle, Ray Bradbury reminds us in Fahrenheit 451, books were only one receptacle where we stored a lot of things that we were afraid we might lose or forget. There's nothing magical in them at all. The magic is only in what books say, how they stitch together the patches of the universe into one garment for us. May we all go shining in wisdom and in peace. Blessed be. Thank you.
Please rise in body or spirit and join us in hymn number 287, Faith of the Larger Liberty. Faith of the larger liberty, source of the light expanding, law of the church that is to be, old bondage notwithstanding, faith of the free of all who make the world more fair, living their faith's confession. Faith of the free, whate'er our plight, thy law, thy liberty, thy light shall be our blessed possession.
And now we extinguish the chalice with these closing words by the Reverend Sarah Lammert. Go in peace, embraced by the light and warmth of our gathering. Go in love, ready again to struggle on. Go in beauty, shining forth like a lamp for freedom. Amen, shalom, salam, namaste, and blessed be.